Hey guys, it's Michael from Chess Lifestyle, and today we are going to take a look into my games from the Bristol Congress. Now, I realize this whole setup I've been doing for the last few videos, it's still pretty ugly. I kind of have had a lot on my plate, so I haven't really been able to work on, the production value of Chess Lifestyle at all, so I hope this is okay. But in short, basically, I had another disaster tournament, and this was a really weird one because I felt like at times in my games I was playing, some very high level chess, like especially my ability to fight back in positions where I had no right to fight back. Like I felt like I was doing a really good job of that, and I mean that's always been a strength of mine. But I felt like in this tournament particularly, I was able to channel that comeback energy quite well. But aside from that, like a lot of elements to be a good chess player were going wrong. Like for instance, I was blundering, I was rushing, I was miscalculating. So, these three things are going to obviously impact your chess. And I managed to basically mess up in those regards on pretty much every game. And it kind of got me thinking, it just shows how inconsistent I am as a player, because although I know that I've got stronger in many regards, which hopefully you'll be able to tell from these games, and you'll be able to learn something from these games as well, that doesn't mean you can, consistently win, because even with those strengths, if you ultimately have a bunch of flaws that you're unable to control, then you're just going to always be held back. So I've got some more thoughts about that, but I'll leave that to the end of the video. And I thought actually you guys will be able to learn a lot from not only the good parts of my chess in this tournament, but also the bad parts. So I thought we'll just take a look at that today. So the first game, let me tell you a bit more about the tournament. So the tournament was a weekend congress in Bristol. That meant an evening round on Friday, 2 rounds Saturday, 2 rounds Sunday. And I was going into this tournament with quite a lot of confidence in my chess. Like, I know I've been burnt in the past by having too much confidence, but it kind of felt like a more controlled confidence, in the sense that, the week before, I'd played a 2200 in the league and beaten them. I did have a bit of a shake of confidence the weekend before, where I played in a one-day rapid where I scored 2.5 out of 6, but 2 of the games, which were against strong players, I outclassed them, but I messed up in winning positions. Like for instance, my first round against the 2200, I had played a great game and reached this position where I was two pawns up in the rook ending. And I even saw this idea where basically in rook end games like this, when you've got the potential for passed pawns, you want to activate your king to support the pawns and use your rook to defend against the opponent's passed pawn. So I played king g4, and we had this crazy position where I was starting to rush my queenside pawns. Okay, there were some mistakes from both sides, but this is basically what happened. And here, at this moment, my opponent starts pushing this pawn as well. And I can very simply win this. All I need to play is, at this moment, h7, and on rook h2 there's a very simple move to win, which is simply rook takes a2, and if black takes, well then I promote, and if they don't take, then I've just won this dangerous passed pawn. But this shows there are weaknesses in my play, right? I actually didn't have this tactic on my radar, and I've known that passed pawn tactics have always been a weakness of mine, and since then I've tried to do some work on it to get better. I do feel a bit more confident now to spot these, but this is super basic. And I played king g7. My opponent pushed a pawn, and again I have this chance to just take the pawn and be winning. But I was in severe time trouble, and it was 5-second, 10-second increment. And I played queens, which is obviously a terrible move, and then I'm just lost. So for 2 tempi in this pawn race, I just completely gave up a winning advantage against 2200. So I really played a brilliant game, this game, up until this point. I played it really well, I thought. And that was the story of this tournament. Okay, I mean, I beat Mike Surtees, who's a very strong player, and I really outplayed him as well. So, okay, I have some... Basically, my chess has been going well, but I have some weaknesses, which I guess is natural. But yeah, so round one, I was in the top half of the ratings. So I was playing one of the players at the bottom half. One of the lowest rated players in the Open. And this guy was called Tim Bennett. Now, I saw that board next to me, there was a 1600. So Tim was 1600. There was a 1600 called James, who I know through my sister, who I've met before. He's at the Bristol Society, and I know that he's very underrated. Like his FIDE is 1600 and his ECF is like 2000 something. So I was thinking in my head, like, this is like, I guess, like a bit of a luckier pairing. I could have had a much tougher first round. And I looked up this player and I felt like, okay, this guy is probably like a legitimate 1600. But I try not to get, over my head, try not to like deep it too much and just play the goddamn game, right? So this is how it went. Knight f3, c5. And I've been getting this a lot in online chess recently. So I feel like I've put a lot of work into my setup against this, and this is how it went. So I played c4, and I'm not planning to play symmetrical. I'm planning to play a Maroczy, and he plays g6. And basically, I remember I had a game in the Netherlands, and this was before I properly like understood my openings, where I played d4 here, and generally like the setup I'm trying to go for is like if they just played knight f6, I would go. I would not go d4, I'd go knight c3, knight c6, d4, takes, and e4, and get my Maroczy bind. If knight c6, then I would have played d4. And again, we can get this Maroczy bind. We'd have to be careful not to drop a piece. But this g6 move is quite tricky, because if you just play d4, thinking that it's just going to be a Maroczy bind, actually at this moment, black can play knight f6, stopping e4, and when you play knight c3, they can play d5. And this is some Grunfeldy idea, and actually black equalizes immediately. So I knew this, and I've worked with this, and that is why e4 is the correct move order if you want to play a Maroczy bind. And the point is that, okay, on knight f6, you play knight c3 and then d4, because if you play d4 here, there's actually this Kasparov gambit line with e5. Which is quite interesting. So that is why we play knight c3 first. And the point is, basically, we don't want to play e4 in all of these move orders to get to a Maroczy bind, because black can play e5 here. And then we've got a Botvinnik structure. But as you can see, when black plays g6, this is the one time when e4 is not, covered. Or black can play e5 next. So we can play e4, because here we can just simply take. So that's the subtleties about the opening. So I was very happy to have recalled all of that properly. And now we get our Maroczy bind. And I also remembered that at this moment there is an interesting idea of queen b6. And I seem to remember that knight b5 was the move. And from there I'd work it out, and that is the case. So here, if queen b6, knight b5 was the correct way. And I seem to remember there was, you gain some tempi on this queen. Depending on what black does. So I probably should revise this just to make sure I know how to refute this move, because in the game I was a bit concerned about this queen b6. But he just plays the natural moves that lead to an accelerated dragon Maroczy bind. And here the main moves are d6 or castles kingside, and he played a6. Now basically at this moment, I can continue bishop e2 castles, which is, just consistent with my plan. But to help you understand what's going through my head, basically, if we get to the starting position of the Maroczy bind, black basically has three different setups. One is to go bishop d7, takes, and then bishop c6. One is to go takes immediately and bishop e6. And one is to play bishop d7 and a6, or a6, bishop d7. So when he played a6, I had this feeling that, okay, he might be, it probably will just transpose to one of these a6, bishop d7 lines. And here I played bishop e2, castles, and he goes d6. And here, basically, I had a little dilemma because against the line where black will play bishop e6, the way I like to play against this, I think first I want to play b3 and rook c1 to secure this point, but then I want to be playing with f4, f5. And that is one setup. And basically against this bishop d7 a6 line, I want to just continue with my setup of h3, queen c2, rook d1, and I've got some ideas there. So I realized at this moment, because black has played a very early a6 here, I actually don't know if he's going to take and play bishop e6, or if he's going to play bishop d7. So if I play h3, and he takes and plays bishop e6, my setup is going to involve playing with f4, but now I've played h3, and in general, if you're going to play f4, you want your pawn on h2, because these squares are going to be too weak around the king side. Like you can imagine some knight h5 might be strong. So in the game, I felt that, okay, if he does play this knight takes and bishop e6, I felt like I could still play in this way and still play f4, and I felt like this probably wouldn't be a big enough weakness for me to be a concern of. For instance, the bishop is doing a great job of covering this knight h5 entry. So I felt like h3 might not be that big of a weakness, and therefore I should just play as if my opponent is going to play bishop d7 and that bishop d7 a6 line. So as you can see, like I'm thinking a lot. I'm taking this as seriously as possible, trying to play the best chess. So I played h3. My opponent played bishop d7. I played queen c2, which was my setup. And this is the interesting thing. So I've actually looked at this position before, because here black can play rook b8 or rook c8, and both of these seem quite interesting. And rook c8 feels very natural, putting it on the line of a queen. And I remember my lines basically are to play in the exact same fashion as if my opponent so the main line of the Morocco, sorry, I'm jumping around so much here, but I think it's quite important to know. So basically the main line is to play bishop d7 and queen c2. They take bishop c6, rook d1, they go a5, and okay, I should have inserted this move earlier, but basically we get this setup. And this is like how to deal with this bishop d7, bishop c6. And I found out that when my opponent plays with a6 and bishop d7, even though it looks kind of odd, we can actually do the exact same setup, putting our pieces like this. Now, I remembered as well that at this moment, the most critical line was for black to take and try and exploit this pin already, but I actually remembered my theory here, which I haven't looked at this for months, but it just shows that, I really understand it. So I remember that at this moment, okay, we can't really take because of this pin. But there was this idea of b3. And after takes, bishop b5. The point is I can take once and play this queen b2, which is quite smart. And there's no b4 to win this pawn because I've got knight d5. And I've got this pressure here. And the point is that I'm going to be able to weaken black's structure. And it's like, maybe black can hold on, but it's like a 2-result game. Like either white wins or white draws. So I remember this was the top engine line for black. And I had this in my arsenal. So I was very, very happy that I could recall this. Now my opponent played queen a5. And here, I remember actually a club game at Loughborough where, just a blitz game where this happened. And I did some research into trying to understand the subtleties of this queen a5. And the first thing to note is that queen a5, when the rook is still on a1, this is not a very good move because white can simply go a3 and b4, gain the tempo back on the queen, and white is doing really well. Now, I think in the club game I played with b3 here to, support my a2 pawn a bit better, but this queen was actually quite annoying. Like, just puts a bit more extra pressure on this knight, and it's a useful square for the queen. But what I found out was actually I can play a3. And the point is that, black can't just get on with his game because I'm actually preparing to play b4. And I remember that he can't take my pawn because I actually can trap this queen. So this is also like part of my preparation. Like I'm telling you, like I've worked a lot on these openings. I understand them a lot better. So a3 is what I played, and my opponent played queen d8. So clearly, like in the game, I was thinking like, okay, this is the first like big mistake from black. But in hindsight, maybe this is just like respect to my opponent for appreciating the strength of his a3 move and realizing that it's worth losing two tempi to get a game, right? But okay, I played b4. I did think that b5 or maybe takes b5 could be interesting, but I think I had something prepared against that. I don't think it was quite working, so that's why I went ahead and played b4, and he played very passively with b6, and here I thought, okay, I should just keep gaining space, keep improving my position, and that's the thing, like when you've got the extra space, you have the opportunity to improve your position more than your opponent. So statically, I think I'm doing quite well here. So I played f4. And okay, like in a position where you realize, white is going to continue making improving moves, perhaps, it's probably quite important that you try and react. And he played e5. The only issue is that I don't think e5 is sound. And the point is that I can take on c6. He can't take back with the bishop because I simply take and we have this pin. So they have to take with the rook. And firstly, I thought I could play f5 and just play against this backwards pawn and probably have quite a pleasant position. Maybe play with knight d5. If he ever takes, always take back with the piece and try and attack this d6 pawn. But I saw something more concrete. And I thought I could simply just take, and play bishop g5. And I thought this was very strong because this queen is quite overloaded. It's defending too much in this position. I'm also threatening to bring this knight in, and I thought this was a winning idea. But then I realized that black can move out of the pin. Now he's got to be very careful because he can't play queen c7 because I will take and play knight d5, and this is a problem. And the point is, if queen goes back, I can take queen takes and take this bishop, and I'll just be a piece up. But I thought he could play queen c8, and I didn't see a correct follow up here. So in the game, I thought that the best move would be rook takes f6. And at this moment, after bishop g4, I thought this was simply winning. Now, in fact, actually, I think black has some crazy idea of bishop g5 according to Engine. I don't know if it was at this moment. I didn't spot it, but neither did my opponent. And the point is here, my opponent tried to regain some material, so just take a rook and a pawn for two pieces. But I was very confident here. I am a bishop and a knight up. I feel like my extra minor pieces are extremely useful. Black tried to triple and try and win my knight, but I can simply dodge this. And yeah, I felt like I was in full control. This rook can't go here because of my bishop, can't go here because of my rook. This is just a winning position. And my opponent played rook takes c3, which I think was quite unwarranted. I took back. He took the pawn. And here I thought, okay, I can just play bishop b6 because why not? Get this majority, and this confirms my static advantage. I'm not just a whole piece up, but now I've actually got a majority on the queen side as well. So this is game over. I trade the pieces. This is just it. So my opponent plays bishop h4 at this moment, and this is where I'd like to ask you to pause the video and ask yourself, what would be your first instinct here, and after some thought, what would be your move? So basically, at this moment, when bishop h4 came, I don't think it's wrong of me to feel confident that I'm going to win this position. I mean, you've got to, be objective about the position. I think, if you always imagine that you can lose, I don't think that's necessarily healthy as well. What happens if you're a queen and a rook against a king? You have to be confident that you can win this. So I was confident, but maybe this is also a problem. So I need to think about this. But In any case, I thought my first instinct was just bishop f2. Trade this piece off. And I mean, he can take, play f5. I thought maybe there is some slight nervousness because my king is on this file of the rook. Maybe it's just unnecessary to do this. So I thought, okay, rather than just play bishop f2 immediately, let's actually consider some alternatives. I considered maybe bishop f3 as well, but I thought that after bishop f3, queen f4, and maybe there are some problems with this e4 fork. Like, probably not. I can probably do a new number of things to stop this, but I thought this was unnecessary as well. And then I thought of this idea, which I thought was very clever, which was the move rook e3. And my thought was that, okay, after queen check, I just go king h2, and my king has got a little bit safer actually, like not as exposed. And on rook e3, then if black plays queen f4, I can now play rook f3, attacking the queen. The queen probably should go back. And now I can play bishop f2 to trade off my piece, because now I can take with the rook, my king stays safe, and this is just 100%, 100%, 100% win. So I played rook e3. And then as soon as I played it, I was like, okay, well, after queen b1 check, king h2, hold on a second, what about bishop f2? And I felt like, you know, like, I tried to keep a poker face, but in my head, I was just, like, panicking big time because I've just blocked my own rook. And he plays queen b1 check. I'm just thinking, like, how? How have I lost this position? Like, I've literally, okay, apart from this miscalculation of rook takes f6 and missing this single resource of some bishop g5 move, apart from this one move, every single move from here, I think has been perfect in terms of like converting this position. My position, according to Engine, was +8. After rook e3, it's -5. So a swing of 13 points. I had 40 minutes on my clock. Absolutely no reason to make this mistake. But it was just the craziest blind spot. And it's funny because after this game, I asked my sister like what her... I was staying with her because she lives in Bristol, so I was just crashing at her place. And I asked what her first instinct was, and she said rook e3. I also met some guys for dinner, and one of them was a 2100. I asked him for his first instinct, and he also said rook e3. So whatever it is, it's a weird looking move that looks good, and I guess it's easy to spot that suddenly you're no longer controlling the square because you're currently controlling it twice. You forget that, you know, that's a move, and I couldn't believe it. I played rook e3, played queen b1, and I was like, oh, okay, fine. King h2, bishop f2. I saw that at this moment, I still have a way to play on. I have to give up the whole rook. I just have to simply give up the rook. He takes with the queen, which in the game I thought wasn't necessary. I thought maybe he could take with the bishop and try and play for an attack, but in fact, actually, it may not be so clear. Maybe I find a way to defend and I've still got this majority. So what he did with trading is probably the right choice. So at this moment, I was quite annoyed, but I was still thinking like, okay, you know, I've played a better game so far. Like, there is still hope here. I've still got some chances. I've still got a majority. I've got to fight this, right? So I played bishop e2, and I was expecting rook a8, but he finds this clever move rook e8, because I can't take because of takes. So here I played bishop c5, and he plays rook e6. And here originally I thought bishop c4 would have been good. And I mean, to be honest, if he just plays a nothing move here, like h5 or something, I can play bishop c4, covering rook e6, and maybe I can get in and cause some problems. If he ever pushes, maybe I can start pushing this pawn. Maybe I get some plays. So I think rook e6 was good, because now bishop c4, rook c6, bishop d5, rook c7, and I don't think I get to make progress. So I played a4 and a5, and here I felt pretty good. I felt like this was a pretty stable setup. He's tied to defending this pawn. I can try and activate my king soon, bring it to the queen side, and maybe I've got a chance to create a passed pawn, and maybe that will help me get some chances. But in the game, I was thinking like, oh god, what if he just takes my bishop? And then I've got really like small chances to win this. And this is the thing, right? Like, I'm already thinking about trying to win this game, not draw this game. And I don't know if that's a weakness in my chess. Like, maybe I should just be thinking like, okay, like I should be happy with a draw. But this is the thing, like I was talking a lot, because you're gonna see what happens in this game. But like, a lot of people, were giving me this advice of like, oh, just play the position, play objectively. But you can't do that in this position, because if you play objectively here, if you ask Stockfish to play this as white, they're just going to lose the game, because objectively I'm lost. Like, there's no point playing objectively in this position, because it's just a -5 position. You're going to lose. So you have to play for something else. So in any case, he took my bishop, I took back. He took my pawn, and here I thought there's no need to rush with taking this pawn. I mean, I can take it at any point when this bishop moves. I'll play king g3. So yeah, I thought, for instance, he might try, let's say, attack this, I take, and this would just be really good chances for black. But the point is here, obviously I can push. And if he moves, he has to move his bishop to stop, and then I can take the pawn. And if he doesn't move the bishop and tries to save his pawn first, well, then I push him and I win. So, setting these traps, right? He plays f5, he doesn't fall for it. I play king f3, king f7, and now I take. And I was hoping like he might play like king e6, in which I might be able to give a check and come around the back. But no, he plays king f6, which is a good move. And at some point he offers a draw, I think. No, I think I offered a draw at king e3. And actually I didn't. So crazily enough, I still didn't want to draw. I wanted to try and push this, but I thought that maybe he would decline the draw, and he would try and show why he's declining the draw with an attempt to win. And that's exactly what he did with g5. I played g4, and then he said, okay, let's have a draw. And then I said, well, I want to see what you move first. He played h6, offered me a draw, and I said no. And this is like a common, maybe not common, but this is like a good psychological trick, because your opponent suddenly gets some panic that maybe this isn't as simple, and now his chance to draw has just been taken away from him. So this might cause some panic and might cause some mistakes. So I know that grandmasters have done this a lot in the past against like lower rated players. So I played bishop c8. He took, I took back. He played bishop c7, and now this was his kind of like fortress idea to hold on. Now, in actual fact, it's actually kind of genius, because it gave me the hope that I can actually push for a win here. Now, I played king d5, and my opponent thought that I should be playing with bishop d5 first and then bring my king in. But for anyone who doesn't know, the setup with the bishop and the pawn, you have to be extremely careful, because if there is a pawn here, it's not entirely solid, because black can basically push this, and you can't take this because the bishop will fall when the king is moved. So this setup is actually not stable at all when you can undermine the base of the setup. So I played king d5, he played bishop a7, and I thought here he might actually sack the bishop, king takes, and just play h5. And the point is, when the pawn takes, I have bishop and pawn of the wrong color, so he can simply just give up these pawns, put his king in the corner, and it's to draw. And this is the thing, like, I was playing for a win, right? So I played c6, he played bishop b6, I played king d6, and now he played e4. And at this moment, I really should have started having some alarm bells, but I thought here, I simply played bishop a6, bishop e2. I mean, if he plays h5, I take, and probably it's a draw, because, whenever I push this pawn, he just sacks, and he can get to the corner. So if he wants a draw, he's got it. But I thought, okay, I can play bishop a6, and I should be alright. And then he plays h5. And at this moment, I still was trying to win this. I wasn't happy with a draw. And I thought that in this position, if I take, and he pushes, I thought I could go bishop attacking the pawn, and when he goes king g5, I can take, and when king takes, I can push h6. And the point is that even though he has this passed pawn, I've got this passed pawn and this passed pawn, and I thought that that still had some chances. Like, we might both queen, but with queens on the board, you know, anything can still happen. So I saw this chance, and I thought, okay, I've got to go for it. But of course, after takes, there is no bishop e2 because simply just pushes, and I'm lost. And at this moment, I was like, oh shit, like, you know, actually, I might just be losing. And I thought, okay, if I play king e4, maybe there's a chance to draw, because if he pushes the pawn, well, then I can play king here, and if he pushes the pawn, I can play king here, and this is a draw. But of course, after king e4, he just plays g3, and this is winning, which is actually what happened in the game, and I'm lost. In hindsight, at this moment, after g4, I should have tried h6, because I didn't calculate this properly, but there's actually this brilliant draw if king g6. Black doesn't have to play this, black can just simply push. But this is a very natural move to deal with this and then push the pawns. But I can actually play bishop c8 here. And the point is why this is a draw is because on g3, there's this spectacular move bishop f5 check, threatening to take, and if takes, well, then I get to push my pawn. So this h6 would have been a much better try. I didn't spot it. My try was much more feeble. G3 is just obviously winning. So in fact, actually, at this moment when black played h5, I saw the draw here, and I probably would have been able to find it had I already switched this mindset. And this is something I've learned recently, which I completely forgot about in this position, which was when there is a change of pawn structure, you must reevaluate the position and decide, are we still playing for a win? Are we playing for a draw? Are we trying to, you know, hold on to not losing? And that just wasn't on my mind. And if I had, I would have probably found this king e4. And the point is, this is now a draw because I've provoked my opponent to play this move. And now this is similar to my king e4 line where black has played this incorrect e3 move. And this is a draw. But I wasn't thinking about the draw. I was just playing for the win. So after this game, I realized this. And the worst thing is, after this game, I realized that I made the exact same mistake in Sunny Beach 2019, 4 years ago. Exactly the same idea of trying to use my king to, force my opponent to sack the bishop, but in doing so, allowed my opponent to create a passed pawn and then not being in time to deal with the passed pawns and losing. And it's funny because in Bulgaria 2019, I lost 2 opposite coloured bishop endgames. And in this tournament, I also lost 2 opposite coloured bishop endgames, both of which I shouldn't have. And I think it's to do with this wrong mindset of just, trying to force his win. And it was interesting because, on the Saturday, when I had dinner with some guys, one of the guys there, this same 2100 who blundered rook e3, same with me, he said something interesting about how, the strongest chess players are the players without fear of losing. But I told him, actually, that's not the case, because, in this game, in this position, I didn't have a fear of losing. I just was doing everything to maximize my chances to win, and actually gave up the game. So this was the start of my tournament. I felt like I played a brilliant Maroczy bind, probably the strongest I've been able to play it, because I really understood the nuances of the opening. But okay, I blundered rook e3, which went to +8 position to -5, and then I managed to fight back to an equal position, but I just wasn't satisfied. And it's very difficult to know when to stop, because if you've already fought back a -5 position to equal, you're telling yourself, hey, maybe I can actually win this. I can go that extra step. But then you risk too much and you lose. And you come away from this game with nothing, right? So this was my round 1. So okay, I lost to a 1600. This was bad. And basically, after the game, I asked for a buy the next morning, because I was like, okay, I've had a really long journey. I'm going to be catching up with my sister. I was staying with her. I haven't met her in a long time. I really don't want to be waking up at 7, 8 a.m., play 2 rounds of chess the next day, when I'm exhausted. I thought, just take the bye, refresh, you know, try and clear your head for the next round and give it your best shot. So that is what happened. Round 3. Now, this opponent was 1800. I have tried my best to try and not get too hung up on ratings. I actually found out afterwards, though, that his ECF is closer to 2100. So I didn't realize how technically strong he might be, which he was able to show some of that later. But in any case, I looked up a few of his games because this is a strategy that worked very well in my tournament in Doncaster, where I would basically prep my opponent just, 10 minutes before the game, just have an idea of his repertoire and then play. And I saw that he played Alapin a lot. He played a lot of Alapin. So I was very excited to go into this because I've done a lot of work on my Alapin and my lines. And he played F4. And this is actually something I need to look into. It's actually a hole in my repertoire because the problem is I have stuff against the Grand Prix attack. So for instance, on knight c3, I play a6. And if they play a4, I play b5. And I play this setup here, which I quite like because basically I'm going to play for a quick d5 and put pressure on this e-pawn, and quite often they will have to push. And I like the kind of squares I get. For instance, I quite often get this f5 square and I get quite a good game. But the problem with this f4 is you can't quite do the same plan because white can play with c3. And if white can play in the center like this, then I think this queenside play is less strong. It's particularly good against a knight on c3, which is why it's so good against 2 knights c3. So I actually don't have a good setup here. So I was thinking, okay, if he plays f4, he might transpose to some kind of Grand Prix, or maybe he'll develop the bishop. So I thought I'll play with e6. I'll try and stay flexible. But he plays knight f3, and he plays c3. And I was thinking, yes, he plays this Alapin. So probably he's more inclined to do this. I didn't really consider how he might be able to do this. But here I thought, okay, maybe I can still play with d5 and try and just make use of the fact that this pawn is blocking this knight, bring my queen out just like in an Alapin, and just try and play this position. But already I'm out of book and this is uncomfortable. And I think what I need to do is play d5 here, which I know is the main move, which is why f4 isn't more popular, but I don't know it. And this is why I'm going to, hopefully over the next few days, just make sure I've got this line covered. But I didn't want to just play this over the board because I saw after takes, knight c3, and I'm not quite comfortable with this position. F4 definitely looks a bit odd. It's probably, white's probably better with the pawn is still on f2. But still, I need to play this position. I thought, if I move this queen somewhere, if I could get him b6, bishop b7, then I think I would be satisfied enough to play this. But I thought maybe he even plays g3. And I was thinking, okay, if I can't play b6, bishop b7, maybe I don't mind white's position so much. It's probably nothing special, but I didn't want to just play this with no knowledge of it, so I need to look into this. But basically we got this position, and he played e5, and I was very happy to see this. And although I've got some kind of French, it's a French where it's not like a classic Steinitz where my knight has been pushed back, but I actually have his f5 square. So I play knight c6, he plays bishop d3, and he was playing this all very fast. So I guess he knew this position well. But here I was happy with his d4 push to basically stop him from just getting hold of his center and playing with some easy f5 kind of break. And here my plan was to probably castle queenside and play f6 and try and open up this bishop to the max, just attack his kingside and hope for the best. But here he played d3, and because he blocks out his bishop, I then realized that, okay, maybe I can again play with this idea. So I played h5, knight h6, and knight f5. And this is just in time to cover this weak d6 square. He plays c4, locking it up. I played bishop e7. And here I kind of felt that I've got an issue, because I felt like white still has improving moves. White can potentially engineer some kind of b4 attack. And I didn't really know what to do. Like maybe in hindsight, I should have just tried to sit and just not play anything. Like maybe queen d7, queen c7, and just wait for white to show the hand a bit more. But I also felt like I shouldn't give my opponent the opportunity to make improving moves. So I played f6 to try and create some dynamics. And he found a move that I missed, bishop a4, which I think was quite good. Because now I'm in a bit of trouble because if I take, he can take and then take like this and my knight, and he gets a very strong knight, or even just take immediately. If I don't take, I think he had some kind of threat. What was the idea if I don't take? Trying to remember. I can't quite remember. Maybe I was also trying to consider castling, but I thought that wasn't too effective either. Although I can't for the life of me remember why. Because I'm thinking like, if he ever takes, I take with the pawn and he doesn't get the e5 square. So probably what I played in the game was just bad. I thought I had to take this, but maybe I don't. So I gave him this position. I played bishop f6. But I thought I was in I thought I was in trouble here. Again, I'm struggling to remember what. I think I thought that he shouldn't allow me to take this knight, in which this pawn would no longer be a backwards pawn and very weak. I thought that probably it's best for him to maybe trade on c6 and maybe even trade everything and attack this pawn. I can't remember what exactly I was afraid of, but I was definitely afraid of something. But I remember feeling quite happy that I could take and get this position where my e6 pawn is slightly less weak. He now attacks my queen side, and here, okay, I realized I'm in some trouble. For the longest time I was trying to make this work, this knight takes e5, and I thought that after bishop f4 maybe I could play knight d6, and the point is that if he takes, I can take with queen, and well, then I've got a very, very strong knight. So after knight takes bishop f4, knight in to e3. If bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, well then I've got good pressure here. So this was my first plan, but then I thought, actually, why is it not better to just play knight e3? Because if bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, well then I take this pawn, and I've got good pressure against d3. And if I go knight e3, you've got bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, bishop takes e3, d takes e3, queen takes e3, and now I can play queen takes e5. And again, I thought I was doing quite well here. But as soon as I played knight e3, I realized that, wait, white has a move I didn't consider. Simply knight d6. And the problem is, like, in this line, where I was considering knight takes, bishop f4, knight here, this idea doesn't run into this knight d6 because I have taken this pawn. So in my head, I'd drawn the conclusion that this move doesn't have this move available because it doesn't in this line. But then obviously, without taking this pawn, of course, the knight does. And I played it, and as soon as I played it, I was like, God damn it, like, you can play knight d6. So this is the second time I've just made a simple oversight of a move that, I should be able to support. It's not even like one move deep. It's literally half a move. So he plays knight d6. I thought my best chance would be to sack. But I thought I was completely lost here because I thought after takes, he simply takes here. He doesn't take and blunder mate, but he can simply play rook f3, and this is completely game over. I'm an exchange down, about to be an exchange. He's going to win this pawn back. And I thought this was just completely busted. Like, I thought, like, I've got really no chances here. But in the game, he took immediately and allowed my knight to get to this very strong square. So I was quite happy with this. I was like, you know what, I've actually got some chances. I couldn't believe that he would allow my knight to do this. So he played rook e1. I guess maybe he had some ideas of queen d4, just trying to trade the material and be better. And I was very happy with my rook h6 move, because in this position, now there's no queen e5, sorry, because I can take and play rook g6. And I've got a lot of pressure on this, and he can't really go g3 because I've got this fork. So rook h6 is starting to create some problems. But he finds a really, really good move. Like, I thought that he would need to defend this plan. I can't remember how I thought he was going to defend. But he played rook f7. And at first I was like, well, okay, he's just allowing this. But he's being very tricky. He's threatening to play rook takes b7 and queen check to pick up my rook. So now I don't have rook g6. But the good news is I have knight f5. And I attack this queen, and again it's a bit tricky. I'm defending g7. I'm still now threatening to play rook g6, and I've got some counterplay. So the move, actually, when I played it, again, I missed something again. I missed that he could play rook takes f5. So I could be completely lost here, and I would have just fallen into it, because I did not consider rook takes f5, which is really bad. And actually, the more I started to look at it, the more I thought that maybe it's his only chance. And he ends up playing it. He plays queen e8 check, queen d8, and this is all forced. And here he has a long think again, and I was wondering whether, he would just play rook check, king c7, rook check, I move the king, defending my bishop, and he takes this pawn, and he's playing this endgame of pawn up, which I would think that he still has a slightly better position, but I could probably hold it with a bit of, if my opponent makes a couple inaccurate moves. But he played bishop d7, king c7 forced, queen e5 check, and here again, I can't take this bishop because he's threatening, what is he threatening? He's threatening just queen takes and picking up my rook. So again, rook d6 is forced, in which now he can retreat his bishop, and now he's got this position where he's a pawn up and my king is still super weak. I played g6. I was quite happy with this move because I wanted to play with queen f6 to get out of this mess. But the problem is I'm now 3 pawns down. Now, just like the last position, I came back from a -5 position, and I was thinking here, like, oh, for God's sake, I'm going to have to come back from this again. So this is the start of a climb. I played king d6. He plays rook e3, I guess wanting to play bishop f3 and just trade some pieces. I played b5 to try and complicate. He plays bishop f3, I keep the piece on, of course. He now starts to activate his king, which is a good idea for him. I now threaten to try and win a pawn back. So he has to take. He plays king e2. I take, because I wanted to have this open a file. I play rook f7 to try and make use of that. Plays king d2, and I swing round. So again, I'm still 3 pawns down, I'm completely lost, but I'm fighting. Here, I don't play rook a2 check, because I thought that just helps him with his plan, so I play rook a3. He plays rook b1, and now I play bishop f5, just putting on some gentle pressure, and I spot, if he plays bishop e4, he was getting a bit low on time here, so I thought, this is some good chance. I can take. Play rook a2, and take this pawn. And okay, this is still losing, but maybe I've got some chances. So he gives a check. I didn't want to come this side, because I thought that he can basically go after this pawn, and I thought that, these 2 pawns against my king and rook, even if I win this pawn, I thought that wouldn't give me too many chances to win. So I thought it's quite important that I keep my king. I'll keep this pawn, sorry. So he played rook d2, which was a good move, I think. I played rook g1. He starts to activate his king. And I played rook b1, plays rook d4. And I suddenly had this idea, if there was a way I could somehow play rook c4, he takes, and my pawn would be able to run. And I was trying to work this all out, and when he played king g5, I was very, very hopeful of this. But the problem is that even if he pushes h4, I don't know if I can get away with this, because takes, and he goes here, and he's in the square. So I was hoping maybe after here I could give a check and bait his king into going further down before playing this idea. But he plays king e6, and here I realized that if I play this idea, I think after h4 he can simply just go back. and I don't have an opportunity to get a passer, and this pawn is still going to run. So I thought rook h1 is a better try. He played e5. I took. But this is really tricky now, because the problem with my king being on this side is that it's cut off. And I think this was quite clever from my opponent. And unfortunately now I'm way too slow to make the counterplay because this pawn is just too fast. So I gave a check. I tried to fight this on. But yeah, it just wasn't enough. And I mean, maybe here I could have tried king c7. That's probably a slightly better try. Maybe I could try play rook a1 to prevent him from playing king d8. That would be a nice checkmate. So I had more chances here, and I don't know why I didn't find these resources, but I just played rook e1, which completely gives up any hope of winning after king d8. And I tried to create some stalemate chances, even though they're non-existent. I rook takes e4, king e3, queens. I've still got this square, but he queened, and I resigned at this point because I don't like giving my opponent the move to checkmate me. So yeah, this was my fight. I felt like I gave it a good effort, but the problem is you blunder like this knight d6, and it's an uphill struggle. Like I'm lost here. So yeah, this was my round 3. I was on 0 for 2. And yeah, this was tough. But I mean, in fairness, my opponent played well. I also felt out of depth in the opening. So in a way, like I kind of deserved this as well. Like I gave it a good effort, but he played a good game. I need to look into this f4, but yeah, that was tough. So okay, I finished the day. I'm quite miserable, as you can imagine, but at the same time I felt like, okay, like, you know, tomorrow's a new day. I can I'm playing good chess. Like I played good chess, like, you know, last few weeks. Like, you know, I should not feel so disheartened by this. I shouldn't be tilting. I should be able to win the next 2 games. So let's see what happens, right? So the next morning, I didn't get to sleep much, but I was still feeling quite energized. I was feeling ready to fight. I wanted to play. I wanted to prove that, you know, I have better chess to offer. So I played knight f3, and my opponent plays d4. And here I played b4. And actually for this game, I didn't look up my opponent at all. And I'm still undecided whether this is better for me or worse for me. Because sometimes, like, knowing my opponent too well, it starts to affect my gameplay of playing objectively. So I felt like I wanted to just play an objectively correct game and play as well as I could, right? He plays g6 here, and actually I realized that I need to come up with a better system of knowing my lines after this b4, because this is like main line of this 2c4 reti. And I have all the lines, but I don't quite remember what to do in all of them. I remember what to do in a lot of them. Like I know what to do after c5, I know what to do a5, I know what to do after f6, I know what to do after bishop g4. But these kind of sidelines like g6, it was a real struggle for me to remember. And what I was trying to calculate in the game was whether I should play with like d3, g3 and bishop g2, or whether I should try and undermine the center immediately, because this is kind of slow, right? So what if I play like e3 immediately, and then takes? Because if he has to take with the bishop, I'm very happy to play this position where I have the bishop pair. I think I'd be happier. But then I thought if I play e3, he plays bishop g7, I take, he could play knight c6. And I don't have pushing because my rook is hanging. And I don't have pushing here because he takes with the knight. And then I think that black is just doing very well with this backwards d pawn. Now in actual fact, I could play e3 and then take with a knight here. This would have been a very different game. And I think that black gets like a decent amount of compensation for the pawn. So I think what I played was good, this d3 move. I played g3, he supports now with e5 since he can, and he plays f5, and I'm already thinking like, okay, like basically when you are reverse colors, like white is choosing a system that is more commonly seen with the black pieces, playing such moves to try and like punish your opponent, you're a tempo down. So normally it's a bit too loose. So I had this in the back of my mind. He played c6 here. His logic was he wanted to develop his bishop eventually and felt like this pressure on b7 would be too much, but it's a slow move. And here he develops, and he plays knight d7 here. And what would be going through your head? Like, if you like, you can pause the video and try and think like how you would proceed here. But basically, I felt that, okay, with this move, he's not castling. He's like 2 moves away from castling either side, so I thought it was a time to open the center. And the reason why, though, he played knight d7, already this position's a bit shaky, because he can't play knight f6, because either I play knight g5 and his bishop has to stop him from castling, or knight f6 I can just win the pawn. And actually, I forgot that on knight f6, I was just going to play knight g5, I forgot that I can just take the pawn, and that's why I thought here h6 made sense, so that he could play knight f6 next. But the problem is, h6, knight f6, I just take the pawn. So he had to play knight d7 to defend the pawn, but this is just extremely slow. So basically, he played knight d7, and I played e3. I decided to try and open the game. So he took, I took, and he played queen b6. And here I decided to open position. And at this moment, I was quite happy with my move because here I could just take with the pawn, but I thought that maybe he can castle, and although I would still take white, I thought that maybe he can maybe try and play on, you know? So I thought knight takes was more to the point, because I attack this bishop, I'm also preparing b5, where this is going to be a problem, this is going to be a problem, so I thought this was good and provoked this move. And he grabs the pawn. Now, I'm threatening bishop b2, so he has to play knight f6, but I felt really good here because, you know, this bishop is still loose. I should have something here. So I had all these candidate moves. I had bishop b2, I had queen e2, I had rook e1, I had queen e1. And I couldn't work out on queen e2, this forces king f7 to defend. And I thought now, because the queen has moved out of the way, I can play knight f3. And this queen will have to move. And I thought the best way would be to take on c4. And I couldn't see a way to deal with this. Like, I can give a check, but he goes king e7. And I just couldn't see a follow-up here. And the amazing thing is that in this position, I actually have rook e1. And I can actually just allow the trade of queens, but this piece is just going to come under huge amounts of fire. Like, not even immediately. I have time to play bishop b2 and then rook e1. And I'm just winning this position. But I didn't see that I was able to just give up the queen trade in this position. I felt like I needed to keep it. So then I started thinking maybe queen e1 is an improvement, because now after king f7, knight f3, queen takes c4, knight g5, check, king e7, now there's no queen trade, but then I couldn't see a good way to bring my pieces to pressure. Like, I still thought that had to be winning, but I didn't see it. So I thought bishop b2 was the better way to play, because I also thought that there are many ways he can go wrong. Like, for instance, if he plays queen here, well, I can gain a tempo with rook f3. On queen g4, maybe I can play knight here, get ready to play queen e2, rook e1. Maybe that would be good, or maybe I thought something else on queen g4. Maybe I could play queen e1, and then rook f4. Basically, I thought there were many ways for him to go wrong. And he chose queen b6. I attacked his queen, he went back, and now I played rook e1. He played king f7, and here I was trying to work out the difference of whether I should sack immediately, or whether I should play knight f3 first, which provokes h6, and then sack. But I felt like, actually, I don't want the knight to be blocking my bishop, and I wanted the option to bring my knight here, so I was calculating this. And I thought, well, if rook takes e6, king takes e6, queen b3 check, well, there's no knight d5, because I can first go rook e1 check, the king moves back to f7, and now I can go bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes check. And with my queen, bishop, and rook, this is going to, at the very least, pick up this rook. And I'd still have a huge attack, so I felt like that had to be winning. So basically on rook takes e6, king e6, queen b3 check, the king has to go to e7, and I thought here I had this clever move knight c4. because I'm coming into this e3 square, and black still has a lot of problems. Like, black can't run away with king f8 because I go knight e3 and I'm threatening f7 with mate, and there's no way to stop this. If the knight tries to move out of the way, this knight hangs. So I thought this was very clever, and I thought that here, the best move would be after knight c4 to play rook e8. And after knight d6, he can try and run with... Oh, no. After rook e8, I would play this rook d1 move. Because I thought that if he tries to run here, well then now I can take the knight and the knight is pinned. So I hope you guys were able to follow that. But the point is I actually missed something here, because after queen b3 check, he plays king e7, played knight c4. What I didn't realize is that on rook e8, rook d1 isn't winning, because now black can go king f8. And now when I go knight d6, he's got rook e7, and that defends the mate. So actually on rook e8, which is what he played, which I think is the only move, now this isn't a winning move. So I played knight d6, which I still thought was very good. He played king d8, and now I played rook d1. And I felt like this should still be winning for me, right? Like, I've got, this king is completely stuck, this knight is a monster, I'm winning this. And I thought that he'd have to, like, play here. And I thought this is a little tricky, because if bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, well, he can start trading with queen c6. But of course, on knight d5, I was thinking of, like, ideas of potentially sacking. I wasn't too sure. I mean, I played rook d1 thinking, like, this is the only way to continue, so I'll work it out when it comes. And actually, yeah, on knight d5, I can simply just win material. Knight f7 and pick up a full rook, and I would just be better. But he plays knight e4. And I thought, like, this just doesn't work. I mean, I can go bishop takes, pawn takes, knight f7 check, and I just win the rook, and that's GG. But I was thinking, like, okay, well, if bishop takes, pawn takes, knight check, the king moves, I take here. Well, he's got a rook, knight, and queen against rook, knight, queen, and a bishop. My knight is still trapped in the corner. Like, this definitely looks good, and it should be winning. But maybe I shouldn't risk it. And to be honest, what I should have just looked at was bishop takes, pawn takes, knight check, king, and take with the bishop. Because the point is then my knight can just drop back to d6 with check and move my bishop out, and that's completely winning. But what I thought on second, so bishop e4 was my instinct. On second thought, I thought, well, actually, okay, if I take here, this is kind of clever, because if he takes with the rook, well, then simply bishop takes, pawn takes, and this is just overwhelmingly winning. And knight takes, if pawn takes, well, then I can play bishop takes, rook takes, and bishop here. And I pick up this knight with force, and yeah, this is just winning. So I thought that bishop takes e4 was winning, but knight takes e4 was even more winning. But I missed something. Knight takes e4, f takes, and on bishop h3, like, he can just play rook f8. And even though I'm winning this knight, I don't have such a material advantage. Like in this position, I mean, I thought maybe I could take with the bishop as well, but it transposes to the same thing. He will just sack. And the point is here, I have queen and bishop against two rooks. And this very, very important passed pawn, which is only 3 squares away from promoting. So here, I thought that queen d1 check must be correct, and queen d6. But apparently, already I should be dealing with this passed pawn, and apparently this is the way to deal with it. And apparently this is +5, but this to me feels quite superficial, because yes, I'm blockading, but it also ties my queen down. He's still got this extra rook to use, so I need to try and understand this position more. But the point is, I played this queen d1 pretty quickly, and I started to realize here that actually I might not win this position, because after queen d6, my line was that he would play e3, I would play bishop e5, and he played rook f7. And I thought probably the best I have in that position is to check and then just perpetual, because I thought that if e3, if queen d6, e3, bishop here, rook here, check, king here, queen c7 check, king here, I thought the king was just escaping, and maybe the king actually gets to a more active square and I might, be losing this. But in fact, actually, Engine just finds a way to be winning here with Queen C7. And I think the point is, we have this move, which I didn't see. Queen D3 check, and the point is if takes, I take, and then I pick up this rook. So I missed that. But here, after Queen D6, my opponent surprised me with a move that I hadn't seen, which was Rook F5. Just stopping me from bringing my queen in, and the point is this pawn is running. And actually, Rook F5 is a mistake because of this move B5, but I didn't see why that was good. I thought he just goes Rook F5, I have to move my queen out the way. And I thought that I'm just, I'm not achieving anything by pushing these pawns. If anything, I'm just weakening them. But apparently this is the way to go. And I've still got an advantage here. So yeah, this is a very, very, very tricky position to evaluate. Let me actually understand why. Why is this why is this an advantage? So if he starts pushing, I can go here, threatening maybe some infiltration. And okay, I'm just threatening mate, you idiot. So he can take, and if takes, and he tries to hold, I guess, yeah, this is a bit shaky. His setup is weak, but okay, this is if he can stop the threats, then he may also be winning. So yeah, I'd have to see all of this. It's very, very tough. So I thought that actually here, I had this bishop f6 move, and I thought that he needed to just play rook here and then start pushing the pawn. But actually, Engine prefers his move e3, and I thought that e3 was inaccurate because I can play this bishop e7. I'm threatening to pick this up, and now he's got this sequence, which I knew was bad for me, where he takes, because the two rooks are going to be better than the queen when there are no pawn weaknesses. But I thought maybe I can hold on to a draw here. And actually when I took, I just offered him a draw in the hope that he would accept because, this was an absolutely wild game. And, this is the start of a whole new game. And I didn't see if I had any chances to win here. So at least I learned from my mistake from round one, where I wasn't just trying to win this position. I could accept that probably my chances weren't too great. So he accepted the draw. We discussed it. Crazy game. But yeah, I managed to mess this up. And the annoying thing is that, I played a lot of this really, really well. This pawn sack in the center, this play, not taking any risks with some queen e2, but playing this these moves that just improve my pieces. This sack, I think, was really sound. This knight c4, knight d6 was great. And here, I just need to spot that knight takes e4 isn't as good. And the thing is, intuitively, that's why, sometimes I even play worse when I play classical than I play blitz or rapid in some positions. Because here, intuitively, why on earth would I give up this strong knight on d6 when I could give up this bishop on g2 that's doing nothing? And it's it's just the more I think about it, this move makes no sense. Yeah, it's the move I chose. So yeah, this was really frustrating that I wasn't able to finish off this game. But in fairness, my opponent played really, really well here to play rook f8 and to come back with his rook f5. I may even be busted. Not here because I have this b5 move, but after this moment, had he played this more precisely, even this endgame, I'm actually worse. So at least I didn't lose this one as well. But yeah, it's just crazy. These games, you need to be so precise. You can't make these slip ups if you want to be a strong player. No matter how well you play the majority of the game, you can't make these mistakes. So this was tough. And after this game, I was tired. I was really tired. I didn't have much sleep. I was this game was exhausting. But we have another round to play. So this was my final round. I had the black pieces. And yeah, this is how it went. So he played d4, c4, and this time he played knight f3. And in this position, black, the main line is to play e5, which is why this isn't played at top level. Because e5 actually is this line called a Kasparov gambit, where you play d5 here. And you've got to be very careful because you can't actually take, because of queen takes and knight c7. So you need to play bishop c5 here, and there's a bunch of theory here. But you actually have to be very precise with black. Like, black can get a good position if they're precise, but I didn't like how precise you have to be. And in recent years, I've really enjoyed playing a hedgehog, which is why I played with b6. Now, I had a game that I think went g3, bishop here, knight back, and we had this kind of hedgehog, which I really love playing this kind of hedgehog. But today, my opponent played knight c3 and played with f3, which is like the most critical way to play against this hedgehog. And the annoying thing is I haven't really looked into how to deal with this setup. Now, the line I went for was basically a setup that I know is quite effective against other setups from white, which is basically where I want to be placing my pieces like this and play for an eventual b5. But what I kind of didn't realize was actually with the bishop not on g2 but on f1, the bishop has some extra control of this b5, and it's going to be much more difficult to achieve. So here, my opponent was actually bishop f1, queen f2. I think these are useful moves, like trying to put pressure on my setup. But he just tries to stay solid. And I was quite happy to see b3, not something like b4, because I felt like I need to be quite careful here. Like, white can actually try and gain a lot of space, but it also wasn't clear that he had anything concrete that was working. So we play some shuffling moves. I'm trying to trade a knight. I'm also trying to provoke some weaknesses. And this, I think, is a weakness that I provoked. And I was also wondering why he played h3. And I thought that maybe he's trying to play this in conjunction with f4. But what I didn't want is that when I played knight c6, I didn't want him to have a square. So I played knight c6. He took. He played rook d2. I got off the line. He played a4. And basically here, we're both still kind of waiting for someone to make a break. And he felt that h5 was too weakening of a move. And that's why he started making his break to try and attack me with f4. And I kind of realized that, if I just sit tight and don't react, I mean, bishop e2 is probably useful to put pressure here. f5 might even come. I can't really play e5 and give up the square. So I thought this is where I need to play a break. And what I was calculating was I thought d5 was very interesting, because on pawn takes, I can go pawn takes, and he can't take with the pawn because his knight hangs, so he has to take with a knight, and knight takes. And for some reason, I only looked at rook takes. And I thought on rook takes, I can go rook e6, threatening to take his bishop, and bishop c5. So I thought in this position, this is actually kind of interesting. And the point is the rook is also attacked from this bishop, so he might need to go back. But then I'm actually unraveling quite well. And I felt like this is compensation for the pawn. And it kind of is. But the problem is after d5, e takes, knight takes. As soon as I played it, again, I spotted that, Michael, you idiot. You just completely missed that you can just take with the pawn at the end. There's no more knight on c3. So just complete wild oversights. And it's not hard to calculate this. It's really not. But yeah, I missed c takes d5. And this position now suddenly is crap because this pawn is hanging. Rook d6, there's even instead of taking the pawn, he can even try this move and just threaten this pin. I'm just busted, I'm completely lost. And here, I actually had the right sense that I should play dynamically here. And the move is b5. And this move is a brilliant move because after a takes, knight takes, the knight is no longer controlling the center, and we actually don't need to move a queen. We can play knight takes e4. And on knight takes, bishop takes, this is actually just a slightly better position for black. So this is kind of the strength of the hedgehog. It looks really, really miserable for some time, but you have your chances to break. And this would be great for me. But after f4, I'm just going to quickly check to make sure this is all recording. Yeah, it's recording. Okay, good. That'll be tragic if none of this recorded. So I played d5. This happened. And I had to play rook d6. I thought I couldn't tell which one was better. Apparently bishop takes a6 is better, which is what he played. I played queen d8 because I was thinking that, I can't really double here when he can take this pawn. And I was very miserable because I was like, okay, like I'm 2 pawns down. I've got absolutely no space for my pieces. When you look at that, I'm lost again. So I played rook b7, queen f3. When he played queen f3, I didn't even spot that my h5 pawn was hanging. Like I was just completely out of it. But I was just trying to make moves, kind of made sense, kept a bit of pressure. And I played queen e7 here, just trying to maybe tickle, maybe takes, and win a pawn. But still, I'm in the exchange down, I'm 2 pawns down, this is completely lost. He played queen f3 just to be safe. I played rook d8. He played bishop c1, I guess trying to come around here, so I moved my rook. And he just played bishop b5, and at this moment, I was trying to make sure that I was thinking, but keeping a very miserable look, just in case he would make a blunder. And bishop b5 gives me that chance. What would you play here? In this position, I found rook takes. And the point is that I can actually get away with this, because even though he's got 3 defenders, if he goes rook takes, I go rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and I've got check at the end, picking up this bishop. And actually, he doesn't have too many good alternatives to avoid this. Like, I've got really good pressure on this file, and I've got this discovery. So he took, and we actually went into this line. And we reached this position. And here, I found a really nice move as well, g5. Because, whenever you have opposite colored bishops with the queen still on, well, there are great attacking chances. And I thought that here, if you were to take, well then, I would take back with the queen, threaten this bishop check, and I've got serious chances for an attack. I also thought that if he didn't take, I'm threatening to potentially take and just play this endgame where I'm a pawn down, these double pawns look a bit ugly, but I felt that I probably should be able to draw this. So he actually took, and he got so worried about my potential counterplay, he played queen g4. And here I thought I would play this clever move, bishop e5 check, because either he pushes this pawn onto a dark square, which I think would be useful for me, or he has to make his king more passive. Now, after he played g3, I took, and here, for some reason, I completely forgot everything I've been working on over the last few months in this book, in the section Endgame Strategy, which is the #1 lesson that you absolutely must follow, which is when you first transition from a middle game to an endgame, you must think in terms of schemes. You must completely understand the endgame and find the correct plan. And like an idiot, I did not stop to think here. I had already calculated beforehand that king g7, I'll just put the king on g5, I'll just put the pawn on f6, this is draw. Absolutely no chance that he has anything, I just put the bishop here, this is draw. And I played this very quickly. I played king g7, king g2, king h6, king g5, I just offered a draw thinking it's a draw. And then the more I looked at it, I was like, wait, hold on a second. Bishop d7 defending my pawn, then the king comes over here. I can try to defend this, but the point is he can make a passed pawn. And if I have to sack my bishop for the pawn, well then his bishop is defending this pawn. He can bring his king all the way over and he wins. I don't have the chance to play f5 to trade. So I was like, shit. He finds bishop d7 and I'm like, oh my god. Because in this position, all I had to do was put my bishop on this square, or even just play f6 to stop this point, and bring my king over to this side, and it's a draw. And after the game, someone who was watching for quite a while, he basically said at this point, yeah, the draw is simple. You bring your king to the side of the majority. I've never heard of that, so which is why I need to study my opposite colored bishop endgames, because in classical rated games, I've lost maybe 4 out of 5 with 1 draw or something in opposite colored bishops. I don't know these principles, and for me to instinctively just put my king here was just so bad. So I play king g7, king g2, king h6, king f3, king g5. And he plays this bishop d7. And here I work out that my best chance is that I need to put my bishop on this diagonal to try and prevent this pawn pushing. And if white would need to bring his king to b5 in order to push these pawns, well then maybe my king is able to get far enough back so that when this happens, I can get to b8 and actually defend this push. So I thought there's still a chance for a draw here. So this happened. I get my bishop to this diagonal, although this is not ideal because my bishop only has 2 squares. I play king e7, I play f6, and here I realized that, okay, he shouldn't play king g5 king b5 because I'll play king d6, and this is going to be a draw, I think, because the point is that I am going to get to this square, and now there's no way to make progress. The other thing I noticed as well, the first move I thought was he might try bishop d7 to zugzwang me, like make me go away. But the point is now if I go away, he goes king b5, I can come back with tempo. And again, we get to the same position where my king comes in. But then I realized probably the best move here is bishop c8. Because now I have to lose time, and now he can come in, and I don't have a tempo on his bishop. And I think this is winning for white. But what he played in the game, actually I thought gave me, I couldn't calculate it at this point, but I thought this gave me some chances because his idea is that he wants to play a5 and play out this position. And I thought here, well, if I can get my king to this square and push this pawn where he has to take and then take, well, then it's a draw, right? So here, I thought if he plays here, 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 well, okay, here he just loses, so he shouldn't play king b4. But if he played like a move like this, then maybe I thought I can go here, and I would be able to like come around in plenty of time. Okay, wait, no, that doesn't work. No, after king b5, sorry, not king d6, I could play this move, and maybe here I can push, and if he takes, no, this is also not working. I can't remember what my idea was after king a5. I thought maybe I had some chances here, like a3, bishop b1. I mean, maybe this transposes the game. Maybe I was thinking more of this move. Maybe this was the mistake. Where here, yeah, maybe this one I have a chance. Yeah, this is a draw. So that extra tempo would make the difference. And actually in the game we played king c6, which was really clever because now the point is if I go a3, he goes bishop b1, and if I go king e7, he goes king e4. And the point is that if I push, he takes king f6 and he goes king e4. And he's able to defend the pawn with his king and prevent this pawn with the bishop, and that's winning. I thought if I go king e7 immediately, he goes king e4, and the same thing transposes. So I played a3 in the hope that maybe he makes a mistake with bishop e6, because then I can play king e7, the bishop goes back, and then I can play f5, and then I think I draw. Because he's not in time to play takes on king e4. But he plays bishop e1, I play king f7, and the reason why I play king f7 is because I spot that maybe there's a chance that he will try and take my pawn, and I will have some stalemate opportunity. So he plays king d5. I realize though that whenever the bishop's on this diagonal, there's no stalemate chance. So I try and get rid of the pawn sooner rather than later. He gets his bishop back, being careful not to make this mistake, which would be a draw. And this position is of course completely lost. But here I played like this because I wanted to see if I could bait his king into taking the pawn. And here he does this, I played king h6, and unfortunately, he doesn't take the pawn. But this is what I mean, like, you gotta fight to the last breath. And here, yeah, he found another way in, and of course, objectively, this is losing, but still, even if he wins this pawn is prone to some stalemate tricks. So, I tried to play it as precisely as possible to increase my chances. And here, like, he has to be careful, because if he just starts pushing this pawn, well, this is a draw. So he plays check, I play king g8, and here, again, if I play here, this is a draw too. So he has to be very, very careful to avoid a stalemate. But here, he found bishop c4, and of course, I'm lost. So, this has been a really long video, and I appreciate you seeing all of these games, but I just wanted to give you an idea of, like, you know, like, to play chess above the level of even, like, you know, 1600 here you basically can't make big blunders. And I managed to make a big blunder in every game I played. Like, in the first game, I blundered rook e3. In my second game, I blundered this knight knight e3 move, missing this knight d6 check. In the game against Edward Small, I missed this rook f8, and instead, rather than just win the game by taking with the bishop, I took with the knight. And then in this final game, I blundered d5. So in every 4 games I blundered, and even with some great fighting spirit, it wasn't enough. And even though it was enough in my game against Tim, the first round, to get a draw, and I managed to lose that because I wasn't able to accept that I was going to get a draw. So, and actually no, the fighting spirit also worked in my last round as well, right? I got back to a draw, and then for some reason I rushed rather than taking my time to understand the subtleties of the endgame, which is just really stupid. So, yeah, unfortunately a lot of mistakes, but I also feel like I learned a lot, especially like this endgame. Like I'm not going to make this kind of mistake again, I hope. But on the other side, it's also kind of like depressing as well, because like this endgame, which I managed to push and lose, I promise you, I made the exact same error in a game in Sunny Beach. It was against a 1900. And I also did this plan of trying to promote a pawn, forcing him to lose his bishop, but then losing this aftermath of the past pawns. And this is 4 years ago, and I clearly have forgotten in that time. So there are some players who are able to make mistakes and learn from it very quickly and not repeat the mistakes, and there are other players who have to make the mistakes more and more. And I am one of those players where I don't know, like in 4 years time, am I going to make the same mistake or am I going to remember it? So like these kind of doubts are creeping in as well. But yeah, it's just a shame because like, like I felt like I played some really good chess. Like for instance, the way I handled this Maroczy bind, like I felt like I played it really, really well. And to be able to blunder a +8 position with this move, having like the logic behind this move as well, like I was trying to play more carefully. Like bishop f2 would just be like the kind of easy move to make, which, would create risk, right, with f5. So I was trying to play with no risk and actually ended up blundering the game. So yeah, I don't know what to say really. And I thought actually like it might be interesting to read out a couple quotes. So I've been reading a book called Chess is My Life by Viktor Korchnoi. And to be honest, like after this tournament, I wasn't like, I guess I wasn't like so angry, more just disappointed in myself. But also I felt like if I can maybe draw any motivation from anyone right now, it would probably be from Viktor Korchnoi, who basically villainized his opponents for having it easy, compared to him who had to work so hard to make chess work for him. And I was reading his. I'm gonna buy the book actually because I really like it. But I was reading a PDF of his book Chess is My Life. And I was just reading the introduction about basically his childhood and how he got into chess. And there are two really interesting moments. So the first one I'll read, which is probably more of a negative note for me. But he said this. He said, at that time, I also had other interests when he was a kid. I was learning to play the piano and was a member of a literary reading recitation group. It is possible that I had some musical ability, but we had no piano at home, so that I had to do my practicing directly in the music school. After taking lessons for a year, I gave up music, and only for a little longer did I study recitation. My R sound is insufficiently pure, and I tried to remedy this defect, but without success. So I also gave up this pursuit, although for many years I retained a love for poetry and a weakness for recitation. In the future, chess was to become my profession, and the pursuits which I had abandoned become my hobbies. I must confess that I have been unable to pass on my love for chess to my son, whereas he has inherited my interest in poetry and music to the fullest extent. So reading that just really scared me, in a way, because I picked up on this one thing, which is what he said was about his poetry, his recitation, where he felt like, he had a passion for it, he was good at it, but he had one defect. His R sound was insufficiently pure, and he couldn't succeed because he had this flaw. And it's like, when I view this, like with my chess, I feel like I have the passion. I feel like I have certain aspects which are very impressive, like my fighting spirit. Like, I don't think many people would be able to turn around this position, like this position here. Like when how on earth do you? Okay, even this position, right? This position is probably like the worst position you've seen. You're 3 pawns down. Your pieces are all tied up. How on earth do you come back from this? And somehow I managed to come back and bring it to this position. And also, if we compare this game, like my fighting spirit in this game, to come back from a -5 position, I mean, you know the position I'm talking about, right? So, I have strengths in chess. I know that. I know as well, like my skills at like the opening, understanding it, improving it, explaining it. Like, I've got these skills. I mean, I beat a 2200 last week. Like, and not just like swindled it. Like, my opponents have kind of like just exploited my blunders here. Like, I really did play a good game. But yet, I have these flaws. Like, sometimes I won't be able to play consistently. And actually, my final round opponent made an interesting remark, which was basically to play chess is like fighting terrorism. Like, you basically have to be on it every game. And that leads to a lot of pressure because you can't, make a single mistake. Otherwise, people will die. Or, you lose 50 FIDE points and all the progress you've made in the last few months has been nullified. And this is my problem because, like, if we check my FIDE, like here, I had a few good tournaments, I gained 50 points. And then I had a couple bad tournaments where I've been blundering. And then I would make this climb again, and then I'd make this fall again, and then I'd make this climb, and now I'm going to make this fall again. And probably, like, to be honest, I'm playing in Menorca in a week, in the open A section. My first round I'll probably play in IM. With a bit of luck, with the kind of, like, anger I have about, my incompetencies at this game, I might actually do pretty well. But the thing is, even if I gain plus 50 points, I'm just going to be breaking even with the minus 50 I've got from this. And the annoying thing is that this minus 50 doesn't reflect my strength at all. It's not like my performance rating was 1500. I didn't play like a 1500. I played like a 1500 on 4 moves, which cost me the game on every single game. And ultimately, that is a part of chess. Like, getting better at chess, there are 2 aspects. One is getting better at chess skill, which I feel like I have done a lot over the years. And one is just getting better at chess. And if anything, I've got worse. Like, I have all of these insecurities, I have all of these doubts, I have all of these mistakes that are creeping into my chess, and my consistency is just not as strong as it was when I was a junior because I had a lot less fear when I was a junior. I would just play, I would just crush players, I wouldn't blunder, and I don't know what it is. So that was the first thing that Korchnoi wrote that kind of like hit me differently, you could say. And then the other quote was quite interesting too, which is probably more on a positive note. So he said, I made my way up the grades fairly rapidly, and by early 1946, so this was when he was 15? 15 years old. I had already reached first category rating, so like 2000. And that's actually the same as me. Like I reached 2000 when I was around 15, 16. But my progress was tortuous and included occasional serious setbacks. It has been said that I had good competitive endurance, but a sportsman acquires such endurance only by the difficulties which he has had to overcome. And if there are no difficulties, if everything is easy, then at some point, when a testing moment nevertheless arrives, it will be more difficult for such a person to endure it, than for one who is battle-hardened. This, incidentally, is what happened with Spassky. At first, he was favoured by fortune, but then came a time when adversity struck him. He turned out to be helpless, and several years of his life went by before he was able to temper his character in battle. So the positive about all of these setbacks that I induce on myself is there is a chance that if I can push through it, these battles are going to harden me. And in a way they have, because like I remember like the first time like I blundered like this and lost a bunch of rating, it really, really hurt me. Like this was back in Hull 2021, where I had like a winning position against an IM, And I completely bottled it and went from a win to a draw to a loss, like in a few moves. And it was so silly. And then the next game, I had this kind of position where, like, it's an obvious win. I had in that endgame, I was a pawn up. And rather than stop and think, I just rushed it. So I definitely have these impulsive aspects. And the problem is that, like, I think there is something to say about, like, back to Korchnoi's poetry thing. Like, there are some things that are going to be harder for you than for other people. And I think, like, for me, I'm someone who does, rely on, like, my instincts. I am quite an impulsive person, and these traits actually do help me in other aspects of life. Like, it's kind of got me to improve many aspects of my life. But when it comes to chess, these aspects are hurting. And, like, I don't know, like, it's so much easier to just, tell someone like me, oh, okay, well then just stop doing it. Stop being impulsive. Stop rushing. Stop, like, miscalculating. But it's like it's a bit like Korchnoi's letter R. Like, he can keep trying at it, and, like, for some reason, he's just going to be imperfect in that regard. So, yeah, it's kind of a bleak future for my chess. It's like a question whether I'm going to be able to overcome this kind of, like, these kind of mistakes that I'm making and stop these ridiculous fluctuations. Or whether I'll keep making them for the rest of my chess career. But the one good thing I have is that, unlike Korchnoi, who had poetry, music, and chess, right now I feel like I only have chess. Like, I only want chess. Like, yes, I could pursue music. Yes, I could pursue art. Yes, I could, use my degree and become a scientist, right? Like, I've got the options, but I don't want the options. I want to be a chess player. I want to teach chess. I want to get good. I want to be strong. And I think because of that, I'll have to just endure all of these setbacks. I mean, ultimately it is, in a way. Like, to just lose 50 rating points for no reason is just ridiculous, because, I mean, this doesn't reflect my strength at all. It's just basically, you blunder every game, you're going to lose points. So, like, So I think I am going to... And this is actually one final thing. Like, I realize this is becoming almost like a therapy session for me just to talk about this. But the other thing I realized is that, I do know how to focus in chess. Like, if I don't want to make these blunders, I can make sure I eat 2 hours before the game. I can also follow one of Sokolov's pieces of advice. I had the pleasure of getting my FIDE instructor title through him. And what he said was, when he played, I don't know why someone is challenging you to bullet, but when he played, when he played in tournaments, when he was an active player, he would always show up to the board late. Why? Not to mess with his opponent, but he really needed for himself to be in the right headspace going into the game. And that meant he didn't want to interact with his opponent. He didn't want to interact with anyone he knew before the game. He wanted to just turn up to the board and play. And for him as well, he said that the game starts as soon as the pairings come out. So he would prepare, like, well in advance, really, really focus on the chess. And whereas for me, this tournament in Bristol, I was there to, like, visit my sister and, like, catch up. I was there to hang out with members of the Bristol Chess Club. So, we stayed at the pub playing chess, like, till midnight, having some fun. Like, the thing is as well, like, I want to be able to enjoy chess. I want to be able to enjoy not just... I don't want to just, like, turn chess into this kind of, like, be all or end all. You have to be on your absolutely top form. But ultimately, if I want to not lose 40 rating points randomly, I have to get more serious about it. And this is a problem, because there will be days when I go to a tournament where I am absolutely dead serious about it. I am focused to the absolute max. I play my best chess and I do very well. But there are other days where I'm just not in the mood for that, because, like, what is the point? Like, are we playing chess to have fun, or are we playing chess to, make the GM? And if, the problem for me is, like, I am immersed in the chess world in every regard. I am making chess YouTube, I teach chess, I play chess. I'm starting some chess trips abroad for juniors, like every aspect of chess you could think of, I'm dabbling in, and I think it makes it extremely hard to just be a player because you've got to be you've got to have a certain mindset when it comes to playing if you actually want to, really, really progress. And I just don't know how to like balance this mindset. So I think I'll leave it there. I'm gonna be playing in Menorca next week. Maybe I will bring some vlogging stuff because I realize the last few videos on this channel have been kind of dead in production value. But then again, there it is. Like I'm thinking about like, can I vlog it? Can I make it interesting? Can I make it fun for you guys to watch? And is that gonna take away a small thing from my my focus when trying to win these games? I have no idea. So yeah, this is the state of my chess. Like I think like I played some really good chess. I am going to hit -50, which will take my rating below from what it was before the pandemic, which I know for a fact I was a worse player then. But it is what it is. And I guess like in a way, like my rating of now, I guess it'll be like 1940 or something, but still higher than some people who are having to grind from like 1600, 1700. So, I'm still like further along the path than they are if I want to reach some serious goals. But at the same time, it's like I can't make an FM title at least, or IM or whatever, if I just improve my chess strength. I have to improve my chess mentality as well. And to not blunder, to not miscalculate, to not rush, to be in the perfect focused headspace to play the chess strength that I know I have. I need to have a different mindset when it comes to playing, and that is going to be probably one of the biggest challenges for me as a kind of social chess being. So yeah, that is my reflection. That is my Bristol tournament. In some ways, I still think I'm hardening. I'm getting, I'm collecting these battle scars and getting stronger at dealing with this kind of crap. But yeah, this is the situation. Now, I just thought I'd just end on a very happy note, which is finally, I hope you can see it, but I finally reached 2,500 in Bullet, and that is something that from a young age, because I used to play like chess.com when Lead Chess wasn't even a thing, and the only YouTubers were Greg Shahadi and John Bartholomew and Kevin from the chess website. I was an old veteran of like online chess, and I remember when I would play online, I remember my first big milestone was hitting 2,000, and I remember getting 2,000 in like Bullet and Blitz, and like I was so happy about that. And then the next big milestone was 2,100, and then I improved a lot, and then I was able to hit 2,300 for the first time, and then 2,400 for the first time. But over the last few years, like 2,500 was just something unimaginable. Like it was so tough to just be consistent enough to win, because I've beaten like 2,600s at Bullet and Blitz, but to be able to then win in every single position, not blunder, all of this stuff, to actually make it to 2,500 was just so tough. So I'm very proud of myself, basically, to get there. And I think Bullet is one of those it's one of those types of chess where at the beginner level of maybe 1,200 Bullet, it's not really chess at all, because it's just about speed. Whoever plays the fastest will win. But when you get to the levels of 2,400 plus, it really, you're playing full games. It's like your intuition versus your opponent's intuition. And I can now tell myself I have a 2,500 online level of intuition to be able to beat other players' intuition and get to that level. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for getting there. But yeah, long journey ahead, long journey ahead. And yeah, I guess I'll keep you updated for the journey. But yeah, if you've watched this far, would appreciate if you could honestly, even comment. I'd be curious to see how many people have listened to this whole rant, and if you have any thoughts about this and how it relates to yourself and your chess, or like any thoughts that came to your mind when you were listening to me, like maybe stuff that I've looked at in the wrong light, at the wrong angle. I'd also be interested to hear your thoughts too. But yeah, chess is super tough, man. Chess is super tough. But yeah, on that note, I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios. Yo guys, I just forgot to say like a big thank you and shout out to all the Patreon supporters since I started the Patreon. I believe that Chess at Over 50, Bearfang, and Goji Shack really appreciate the support from you guys. And just to give a shout out especially to Chess at Over 50, because since joining the Patreon, he's really been involved with the opening repertoire, put a lot of work in, and the results have really shown because he's played like a few league matches now and he's won every game. And I think 3 out of 4 of the games he used the Chess Lifestyle repertoire, and he asked me many great questions about it. We had some really useful discussions, and yeah, it's going well for him. So that's awesome. And yeah, I hope if any of you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the description below. I think my last video explains it better. But yeah, thanks and see you next time. Bye.